Hi again, this is Master Sergeant Jacqueline Marshall. This is part 2 of the Wyoming Military Department Now podcast, special edition for Veterans Day. So we're leaving Rock Springs now and headed to Worland. We're going to be meeting the next set of veterans at the American Legion Post 44.
Morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
We just arrived at the American Legion at Post 44, and there's a nice crowd of folks here to meet us.
The day of welcoming, March 30th of each year, was codified into state law during the 61st Wyoming legislature. It represents the date U.S. combat troops would have set foot on Wyoming soil after returning home from the Vietnam War in 1973.
Thank you, Justin. And let me say two things. To quote Harry Truman, America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. That is the America that we have. That is the America that is present here in Washakie County. And let me leave you with my cousin George Patton IV, who served in World War II in Korea, in Vietnam. And in 1977, when he retired, he said this to his troops. He said, "If we are to remain a great nation, in each generation, a few of us are going to be called on, perhaps by the Almighty, to serve our nation. Today, we have those individuals here. Thank you. God bless America, and God bless Wyoming." Thanks.
Okay, my name is Michael Scott from base in Wyoming. Branch of service was the U.S. Navy from 1967 to 1971. I've gone destroyers and communication ships.
So maybe I'll ask you this too. Is there anything you miss about the military?
There again, I was a Wyoming boy. I've always been a Wyoming boy, but I love the ocean. I love my mountains, but I love the ocean too. And I miss the ocean and being aboard ship, I think. Going to some of the places for R&R, so that was kind of nice. Probably just being aboard ship, a lot of good men to work with.
Okay. So, being a veteran, what do events like this mean to you?
Quite a bit. I've been coming to the governor's thing since they started this holiday, and if we have it up in this area of the state, I try to get to it, and it's good to just see that the governor's still remembered, because that's the bad part. People forget. Even a lot of the veterans are so busy anymore, they just don't pay attention. And there's very few from our post in Grable and Basin that are going to be down here, and I've tried to put the word out to email on all of them to come down, because I think it's a worthwhile event. If the governor can come all the way up here to see us, we can drive 30 miles to see him.
So maybe in a couple sentences, can you tell me what service means to you?
Service? Well, they still should have mandatory service. They should bring back the draft. It helps every young man and woman grow up. My family has had 3 generations of Navy. My dad and his 2 brothers were in World War II. Me and 2 of my brothers were in Vietnam. And both of my kids, my daughter and son, served in Afghanistan, Iraq. So we're a Navy family, and it means a lot to us.
So service is ingrained in your family,
yes.
It sounds like.
Patriotism.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm Ryan Decker.
Ryan, nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to meet you.
Jacqueline. Did you serve?
Yeah, Navy.
Navy.
Seabees.
Can I interview you?
Sure. My name is Ryan Decker. I served in the Navy Reserves, the CB Construction Battalion for 8 years.
And can you tell me your hometown here in Wyoming? Is it?
Worland. My hometown is Worland. Now, I lived in Cheyenne for about 16 years, so that's how I got hooked up with the reserve unit out of Fort Carson. So, but yeah, I moved back in 17, and so
Very cool.
Fort Carson was our home base, and Cheyenne is where we did our drill weekends.
So, what was your favorite part of serving?
Meeting new people. It's hard to put into words and explain the camaraderie between the brothers and sisters that you serve with. And it's hard for people outside of the military community to grasp that. I mean, I still have friends that I stay in contact with to this day that I talk to 2 or 3 times a week. So it's that was probably the number one for me. Yeah.
You really make bonds for life.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And somebody that gets you.
Yep.
Totally.
Exactly.
So events like today, what do they mean to you as a veteran?
I think it's awesome when you have the governor and, the important people coming to some of these vets. Sometimes they forget that people are thinking about them. And so this is a nice way for them to come and visit with the governor, and they realize that they haven't been forgotten. So it's an important event. Yeah.
Maybe in a sentence or two, what does service mean to you?
A duty and a dedication to your country. I never thought when I came in, I was 27 years old. I already had a job. I already had a family put together. And so for me, looking back on it, not that I would make any changes, but I would have actually rather joined right out of high school. But it was important for me later on in life because the older I was, the more I understood for God and country. So, yeah.
Jake Jacobs, the chairman of the Vets Commission, addresses the audience.
He says that one of the most painful chapters in our history was Vietnam, most particularly how we treated our troops who served there. You were often blamed for a war you didn't start, when you should have been commended for serving the country with valor. You were sometimes blamed for misdeeds of a few, when the honorable service of the many should have been praised. You came home and sometimes were denigrated, when you should have been celebrated. It was a national shame, a disgrace that should have never happened. And that's why we're here today, to resolve that it will not happen again. And I could not express either remarks better myself. I will only add that I'm proud of all of you. I thank you for your dedication, your determination to service, and I say welcome home.
Daniel Mitchell.
What branch you served in and for how long?
Altogether, I was active duty Army and then Army National Guard 30 years when I retired.
30 years. Oh, wow. What's your hometown in Wyoming? Is it here?
Originally from Portland, Oregon, but we came to Wyoming when I was 10. My dad wanted to come home, and first place I lived here was actually Jibo. 20 miles south of here, no longer exists, just an old ghost town now.
So your duty station when you're in the Army National Guard, were you all over the place?
Mostly here in the Bighorn Basin and over in Sheridan. I worked security down at Cheyenne for a year or so after 9/11.
Okay. And what was your favorite part of serving?
All the other soldiers, being the people we worked with. He mentioned Justin Pfeiffer and Terry Wolf. Worked with both of them. Pfeiffer was on my gun crew when General Porter was our commander. He was a lot of fun. His brother Jamie was another one that worked with for years. Just so many. He mentioned the Vietnam vets we worked with, Greg Bilby, Randy Sundquist, a whole lot of good people we worked with over the years.
So events like this, what does it mean to you as a veteran?
It's a chance to honor the people that have served in combat. My brother was one of the people in the Guard, and then he went active duty. Served several tours in Iraq, and after he came home, he passed away from cancer 2 years ago. So it's kind of a way to remember him, too.
Well, we thank him for his service as well today. It's a good way to remember him.
Thank you.
So, maybe in a couple words then, what does service mean to you?
Just being able to stand up for our country and the people in our country and do what's needed when the time comes.
First name is Jan, Jan. Last name is Van Hoven. I started my career in the Army Reserve and then went to the National Guard. Then went to active duty in 1964. I went to Vietnam in 1964 and stayed there for a year and a half, 18 months. And then got out and went back into the National Guard and stayed there until 1980. So I've got 23 years total. 5 years actually active duty from doing active duty time. I have, of course, my master jump wings. I also have Vietnamese wings. I also have Korean wings, and I missed out because I was in Korea at that time of getting the Canadian wings. Then when I was on active duty, I decided not to re-enlist and go to Germany, or I would have had my German wings too.
Okay, so you have a lot of things. Yeah, that's awesome.
My favorite part of serving, I don't know, it was actually, I had a good time in Vietnam. I just can't, it wasn't, most people said, they're pretty bad. I was just talking to the general, and I will repeat what I told him, or to you. My first patrol after I got to Vietnam was a night patrol. In that, we got fired on. Well, when I got back to the camp, I took off my blouse, and I found out that I had a bullet hole through my blouse, another one through my arm sleeve, and neither one of them touched me.
Wow.
And I asked the first sergeant if I could get a Purple Heart for my blouse. And he did that. He started laughing. He said, no. He said, was there any scratches on you? Did the bullet touch you? And I said, no, it didn't. There's a lot of things I did in Vietnam. I was in the medical section. I would have to go over to the hospital every day and make sure who was there and who wasn't. And I had the privilege of meeting General Westmoreland, who was the overall commander at that time. So, until he got pushed out and Abram came in. So, yeah. One thing, I'm kind of a kickback. I was still living in Montana when I was in the service, all three of them. And I've moved here. I've been here for 2 years now, so I'm one of those guys that snuck in here.
You're a transplant.
I'm a transplant, yeah. To me, the service was a privilege. I chose to do it. I started young. I was a sophomore in high school when I started into the reserve side. So, yeah, I think it's a privilege.
Harold Coe, COE. I was in the United States Navy for 4 years active and 4 years reserves.
So what's your hometown in Wyoming?
Worland. I'm from Nebraska, really.
Okay.
That's where I grew up.
Okay.
And my family moved here, so I moved here, yeah.
Okay,
right.
perfect. So you've been here for a while now?
Probably 70 years, because you could have called me last January. I was 90.
Oh, you were. Oh, wow.
I served on a ship in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell me what your favorite part of serving was?
Discharge.